topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
It's Arthi with Light Up Your Life, and I'm so excited to be with you all again for another episode. And I just noticed my hair sticking up in the back. Have you ever had those bad hair days where you feel it? I feel it like right here. Anyways, I always want to start by sharing what's going on with me so that we can talk about what's going on with you. Again, I think it helps for you always to know what is happening with each other. I can always feel vibes and energy, as can we all. So this week, I'm actually not in Virginia Beach. I'm in Northern Virginia, which is actually, for any of you who tuned into my first show, is my home. I grew up in Northern Virginia I was here pretty much for like 32 years of my life. And so I am visiting for a family wedding. And so I actually am an only child. And so everyone becomes your brother or sister in some way. So this is a wedding for my little sister. And as you know, my family is originally from India. And so we got some mehndi done yesterday, if you see my hands, which is henna. And I'm not a real big fan of having anything on my hands usually, but I am venturing out and trying new things. As I encourage you all to do, is to try things that are out of your zone, your comfort zone. And so I encourage you all to try something new and to see how it feels. I even bought a new outfit, which I rarely will do. And I really have been admiring what it looks like. And so do something for yourself and try something new to venture out. It doesn't have to be materialistic. It can even be changing how you get up in the morning and do a different type of practice. And, really to find it be a different way of just being. And so one of the concepts we talk about with the holistic life care is how do we take care of ourselves in the best way that we can. Of course, we are that coaching module through the lifespan. And so one of the things that we continue to talk about is health and well-being, and that is in the domains of wellness. So I just want us to be mindful of how that looks in every realm. And there has been so much in terms of the movement in holistic practices of looking at different areas, herbal wellness, looking at essential oils, looking at Ayurvedic principles, which are rooted back from India. We're also looking at just how we can support in different ways, acupuncture and acupressure. If any of you haven't gotten a chance to check out our video with Dr. Jane Dabu of the Virginia Beach Lotus Holistic Health Clinic, that's located in Virginia Beach, please check that one out on how acupuncture works with our chi and how it helps with energy and the movement of energy. And so I just want us to explore different ways of really exploring how we can encompass something new in our health, new in our identity, and new in the ways that we shape and that we look at each other. And so, again, one of those ways that we can do that is really by providing an outlook of life through each lens, through our emotional wellness, our physical wellness, our financial wellness, our spiritual wellness, and really making connectivity, our educational wellness, all the spheres of wellness that exist. Even though there are wellness sphere and the wellness quotient, it's important to look at how we can break that down, and knowing that we have deficits in some areas, and then we have a way of also increasing it. And what can we do when we think about deficits? How can we increase it? I apologize, my hair is driving me nuts. Sometimes you just realize, like, okay. So, to look where it is. As you know, there's a big focus for us at when we talk about practice, when we look at the whole self, it's really looking at where the deficits are and then also building on a strengths-based approach. That is something that I hugely value. And then looking at the root cause of things, the root cause of what is going on. And so principles and work in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic principles and also in functional medicine are all approaches that are taking the holistic person, the whole self. And that is exactly what the trend is showing is going to make the greatest success for health, wealth in what we talk about, not just monetarily, wealth in our health, right? Wealth in our health, and also all spheres of our world. Now, I want to remind us that the things that I introduce us to or that we discuss are, again, just a sprinkling of giving you information so that you can feel empowered to make decisions of living your best self. And just want to remind you that I know we don't talk a lot about pharmaceuticals. Actually, one of our speakers in a few weeks will be talking about pharmaceuticals and how we can find a good prescription for success if we are able to leave it in its place. But what I really want us to understand is we don't want to ever create dependency where pain medication or antidepressants or any class of medications can really cause a dependency. Even those of you who are taking blood pressure medication or medication for diabetes, I want you to feel empowered that it is not actually your medication that's helping you to always navigate the disease that you face. It's the fact that there are other spheres around that we really want to help build up as well. And so, again, don't want that dependency of medication. Is one of the big focuses that I want you to take away is from this show is how we light up our life is to look at all different levels and the connectivity of everything. And again, hugely important. I was just thinking, sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Again, when you're not in your normal setting, things can change. So thank you for rolling with the punches. Again, I just want you all to note that that's really, really important. So while I can honestly tell you I'm a novice in this world of Eastern thought, like I said, sometimes I feel a little bit of shame and maybe not so much shame, but I just feel that I wish I had a vast more amount of knowledge about the Eastern way of thinking, especially because I grew up in an Eastern home, those kind of ideas. But I realize that I may not know the exact scientific reasons or different approaches, but that I really can actually explain things like in a different way that make it kind of a neutral space so that people can feel like, oh my gosh, this can be accessible for me. This is something I can look at. And so I feel like that's something that's really, really important. If you all will give me a quick moment, I think our guest for today might be having some technical issues too, and I think she's going to hop on with us. But in the meantime, I just wanted to make sure everything's okay. So I really want us to understand again that the principles of taking care of our best self really means getting an introduction to everything, and that it should be accessible, which is a big goal of the holistic life care. I always bring this up to you all, that a big focus is to make things accessible, which is something that our guest is actually going to be doing today, because Pleasance, and I'll introduce you to her in just a second, but Pleasance is someone that I encountered in my journey while connecting in this COVID period. And she has an organization, and she's developed this beautiful community called Little Om. And I'm not saying it right, but she's going to correct me. Little Om, because I remember it being Lil Om. And of course, you all have heard me talk about Om as the universal sound that is really vibrational frequency. When we say it is amazing. So when I looked her up, and I don't even know how it started, and knowing that her organization had this foundation in yoga led me to actually looking up more about her. So Pleasance actually is a professor also at my alma mater, which is American University. And she's going to describe what she does there, because I actually am so fascinated by the classes that she has been teaching. And then the more that I did some research on Pleasance, the more I realized her organization is something that I really believe in as well. She believes in bringing community together. She also did the Death Doula program through ANELDA, which is the organization I did mine a few months prior. So once we started talking, there were all of these things that were connecting our lives together. She also lives in the DMV area, which is known to those of us who are in this area, as the Maryland, Virginia area, the District of Columbia, DC. And so, of course, I just explained to you all that I'm from Northern Virginia. And also, Pleasance always talks about growth and making something. So she actually helped co-found the Kids Yoga Conference, which a couple weeks ago, if you watched my episode, I told you all I had attended. And I actually, not only did I attend, I was giving them some feedback on ways that can always make things accessible for our communities at large. And so Pleasance helped found that. And so she, of course, she talks about how she gave birth to it, and she's let it go to some wonderful people who run it. But this is where her amazing part of how I think she will explain Ayurveda to us, so it makes it accessible to you all and her community that she has really helped ground. And so with further ado, I want to introduce you to who I consider a sister without a meeting, which tells you can connect to people right away when you can feel the vibrational frequency.
Yay. Can you hear me? Hi, is the volume okay? There's so many tech issues, and here we are.
Here we are. Pleasance, can you share your tattoo? Can you share your arm for me? Because I was showing everyone my Mendi from
today. I loved your Mendi. I love Mendi. After I've had it, I think, I want to get that tattooed. My husband's like, are you sure about that? So these are my kiddos. This is my daughter's, that's my son's name, Milo, and my daughter's initials. So it means I can't have any more kids because I've only got 2 left. No more babies. And this one says to me and through me, just to remind of the vision of divine creation, creator, flowing through life force, the interconnectedness of us all. And right now with the cicadas,
oh my gosh,
we're just feeling it. There's so much life, death, rebirth, growth, energy right now outside of our front door here in DC. So thanks for having me. I really am apologize for the delay, and I'm glad to be here.
I'm so, timing is about present moment. You were meant to be here right in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Pleasance, talking about cicadas and before we even get into everything, I love that you just brought up the death and life cycle of this beautiful, they're crazy creatures, but they're beautiful, right? Which we are as humans are.
They are so stunning. I will say the last time we had this influx 17 years ago, I was living in a lot of fear, a nervous system responsive fear, a lot of still trauma response. And I felt very afraid. And this time I have a 9-year-old son, and he is a scientific explorer. I mean, he is in awe. He just wants to catch them and hold them and move them. He is suffering because there is so much death of the cicadas. He's very sensitive. He's very attuned. And he's really seeing all of the dead bits and pieces and bodies and smushed all over on the road. And he's moving them, and he's, slumping. Look at all of them dead. I'm trying to help. So he's been doing little burials. And we're getting up early and exploring. And today we found some that were actually emerging. So there was like the newborns, the elders, the shells, different colors, the eyes pop. I mean, we were getting really close and taking pictures. Fascinating. And for some reason, I'm just energetically not afraid.
Awesome.
I will share this is related to Ayurveda, because literally everything in life, that the way I see it is, thank Goddess for all my teachers and the lineage. I'm so grateful to have learned a tiny bit to share with the world. But I think I'm part of a Jewish leadership program, spiritual program. And one of the women in my circle said, cicadas are so fascinating to me because they basically come alive. I mean, they're reborn, they come out, they dance, they sing, they have sex, and they die. She's like, what an intense and beautiful life. Yes. They're harmless. They're just here for this intense time and mission. And it really shifted how I saw them. So I'm grateful for people sharing different perspectives. Yes. I think the mainstream is a lot of fear or ick or,
Yes. Or they're so stupid, right? Like everybody's like, what's dumb what dumb insect, hits the windshield and just dies, right? Because and you're just reminded, wait, what makes them so special with this cycle of sex?
Yes.
How?
What's underneath it? It reminds me also of the magic and mystery of the unknown realms. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to pretend I know all there is to know about cicadas and or life cycles and or why certain species are here or not. I don't know, but I feel more spacious, open, and aligned if I come from a place of curiosity and exploration than of knowing. When I feel like I know something, it almost kind of shuts everything down.
And then people often will use the word boring, right?
Yeah.
They'll use boring when they feel like they know things, and you won't explore that area. So Pleasance, can you share a little bit? I did kind of tell our audience a little bit about you, but can you share a little bit more about what Ayurveda, like your Ayurvedic journey, your journey to being in this? I've been bringing up a lot, and I don't mean to talk about East versus West. I always try to bring up East and West, but I do break it down a little bit because I think you have to discuss where things originate from a little bit to give context. But can you share your your whole why do you find such passion in this? Where it's driving you to do this work?
I actually want to say something about what you just said in terms of the context, because as a Westerner, I was raised in Connecticut. I have a Jewish lineage. One of the things that I love about Ayurvedic wisdom is the fact that it integrates spirituality ancestral healing and ancestor reverence, past lives reincarnation threaded through this body, this realm, this physical manifestation. And it's the thing that I longed for as I was like, are you my mother? Are you my mother? To every health system, to every training, trying to find my way. But I kept sort of hitting almost a scientific wall. And I love science. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And I felt like I was longing for depth and deep dives beyond what this medical model was able to provide, that there was more mystery and magic I was experiencing every day. And it wasn't brought into the conversation. So, and even honestly, in 20 plus years of a physical asana yoga posture practice, we didn't talk about ancestral reverence. We didn't talk about past lives. So when I started going deeper and deeper into specifically feminine form lifestyle Ayurvedic practices and teachings, and all the realms of spirit were welcome to the physical health table. Like we're talking about what happens, what's presenting right now, but how it might be related to some of these other realms. I fell over, this is my home. And so when I teach and talk and share beautiful downloads that I've received from other teachers, and Dr. Lad and doctors and Ayurvedic medical practitioners, I always have to, especially for Westerners, include, hey, y'all, this actual system includes this other realm that a lot of Western medicine does not include. So let's just start with, like almost in every first Ayurvedic 101 little workshop or something I'll teach, I will say, we actually have to kind of all get on the same page that we're working with ancestors, that reincarnation and past lives are literally part of this system. And if that doesn't feel aligned for you or something you want to work with, then I'm not sure this will be a healing path for you. But for those of you who've been missing the larger conversation in modern wellness culture, and I will name it white wellness culture, this is the part those of us who seek deep meaning, healing, and transformation have been longing for. So I am ready for Ayurveda to have its moment in our world. I'm ready for it to be fully shine forward, and for it to become alive. So I ran a yoga studio, started a yoga studio for families and moms and babies. It was so fun, for 8 years in lots of different locations, different versions, sometimes in schools, sometimes in retreats, just really fun, playful, creative, integrating yoga practices into families. And when I decided to close the studio for a number of kind of long and boring business reasons, I really wanted to go deeper into Ayurveda, the ways that I had been taught and it had been shared with me in teacher training and over the years, was very masculine and very prescriptive. And I didn't understand how I could do it. Like, I would get these remedies of like, here's all the things you can eat. Here's all the things you can't eat. Here's the many hours it will take you to prepare all of this. And I was like, hours? I got a baby. I have a toddler. When am I going to be preparing all of this food? The minute you finish and clean up one fresh bowl, it's time to start make the next fresh bowl. So I have deep reverence for that. And it wasn't really possible for my sort of daily modern life. So I just let it go and thought, I kind of don't get it. And that was okay for that time period. Once I closed the studio, I had a little bit more space to find other teachers who were speaking language that I was finally ready to hear. I am a deep believer that teachers and wisdom comes in divine timing. Right? So my time was right. I was ripe. When I closed the studio, I'd had 2 autoimmune challenges arise when I was working full time as a studio owner and a parent and a wife and a blah, blah, blah. And I had gone through holistic health training at IIN. I had done all the things, Buddhist meditation retreats. And I was like, I don't get what's wrong with me, right? And I think lots of women who come to health practices start with that question. And there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We are so divinely made to be whole and healed and well. And over these past really 10 years of deep study within feminine form, we attune to lifestyle practices, rhythms, routines, and ceremonies that fill us, right? We start the day with, oh my goodness, I get to breathe and be here and be soulful and alive. I'm full of the things that are going well. Oh, hello, beautiful self. What do you need today? Yeah. It's a totally different way of starting your day than what's wrong with me, what hurts, what's not well. So feminine form Ayurvedic practice, how I translate it and live it and breathe it and teach it and share it is what's working. And then we attune and align towards the well, which, just kind of FYI side note, is very in alignment with trauma healing in terms of positive resourcing. It's the same thing. All of this amazing trauma, nervous system, somatic healing that's out now, really since the 90s.
Really feeling it in your like physical body, right?
Yes.
Like really feeling all of the pain points and when we talk about somatics, for sure.
It aligns with Ayurvedic wisdom. It's just proving, right, this beautiful wisdom from your lineage and family of origin, your people of origin, your land of origin. It's so wise. It's often called, the art of subtraction. It's often called kitchen table wisdom. It's often called the art of mothering yourself. And all of those statements, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. I love all of that. I want to embody that and practice that all the days of my life. So that's what I do, is just try to find ways, mainstream ways. So teaching at AU, I teach stress management, and I have a, sprinkle in the Ayurveda as much as possible. Yes, they get to know their doshas. Yes, they get to know the 5 elements. We meditate on the elements. We draw them in. We hold them. We work with the elements to help us balance and bring harmony to our hearts and our minds, especially this past semester. But I just try to weave it into everything. I will teach an Ayurvedic psychology course or a pleasure class or an inner voice class or whatever sort of flows through me. And it will all be sprinkling elemental theory, because the basics of Ayurveda are there's 5 elements. They're what nature, I'm like looking out my window, is made of. And guess what? So are we. And in order to find more balance and harmony, we want to attune and call in the highest and wellest aspects of these elements that are inside of us. And if we feel a little too fiery, because it's Pitta season and I've got a lot of Pitta, you've got a lot of Pitta, we're about to hit the heat of Pitta season. We just want to be really intentional about cooling ourselves. Right? So no saunas or hot yoga, lots of rose and mint, just cooling, quietness, not so much sweat and intensity will be really nice for that. So simple remedies. Okay, I talked a lot, so jump in.
No, I love this conversation. Pleasance, I started by telling our audience, I use the word shame because yes, it is my lineage, but I don't know a lot about Ayurveda, because the way that I shared with everyone that actually I do know a lot. It's just because it was weaved into my life. So I can't describe the scientific reasons of why I drink hot water with lemon and salt to cleanse, or do the CCF, the cumin, coriander, fennel. Well, I I just know it just works, right? But what I'm trying to get at is when I was having this conversation earlier, it reminded me our brain has evolved and we're looking for answers, but I also want us to be very humble to knowing when things work and have worked in history. It is okay not to know the reason why and just dive in, take it, try it, and move and go and try. Because if it won't work, your body, your mind, body, and spirit will let you know, and peace, it just, you will let it just go, right?
Well, I really need to draw in here intuition and what's happened to our world as we have placed value on knowing with a capital K and a period over intuition, over intuitive living, over intuitive healing, and all of the isms. I mean, your land was colonialized. Our land was Jewish persecution. Like, my point is that a lot of these intuitive healings and knowings were pulled out of our homes, and we gave our power over to others. And that time is over. That time is over. We are coming back. We are reclaiming. We are refreshing. We are updating. Dr. Lod, who really brought Ayurveda to the West, to New Mexico. If people have not seen the documentary, A Doctor from India, it's a must watch. He is so incredibly brilliant and intuitive. His divine masculine and intelligence and brilliance is right there with his divine feminine. He is a complete embodiment of the flow of what happens when you are in your deepest alignment for what you're here to do on earth. And at the end of the film, he says, it's not about Ayurveda replacing Western medicine. It's about all of us working together. Ayurveda, he said, if your hand is cut off, you want to go to a hospital and have someone help you and fix it. But if you're mentally fatigued or confused, or you're having patterns in relationships that are causing suffering, let's attune some lifestyle habits from the wisdom to help you start feeling better. Because at this point, we all know the mind-body connection, right? We don't need to prove that stuff anymore. The science is there. And so how we feel does impact how we live and how our body resonates at the cellular level. So I'm excited about living in a time where we don't have to other or isolate or go down a road of all the crap that's happened, that we actually can use this wisdom to attune towards the world we dream of and we vision and create from there. And that's what I feel like Ayurveda has given me the tools to do. I mean, the story I use all the time is my son has a lot of pitta and fire element. I have a lot of it. He would come home from school being highly aggravated because he'd been around so many kids and so stressed out all day. And there was a few months where he'd come home and kind of be yelling and screaming, and I'd be yelling back at him because I wasn't understanding what was happening, right? I wanted him to be different. I wanted him to change. And then he would come home and have things that were more aggravating to his system. So I started using basic Ayurvedic principles of balancing the elements to not meet his fire with fire. So that looked like I needed to center myself, anchor myself before I picked him up from school. Because previously I was running from my work to run and pick him up, then get him a snack. So I was already all fired up. So I had to be, as the parent, kind of energetically hold, like, I need to anchor myself. Then I can meet his fire. What I was doing behind the scenes was turning off the lights at home before we got home. So it was cool, quiet environment. I had diffusers running in the room. So when he came in, it was mint, right? A little bit of cooling, like peppermint was in the diffuser. And I would offer him just some room temperature, warm water, not hot, but just kind of grounding, and some nice cool snacks. And he'd come in, we'd drop his backpack, and we would sit on the floor.
Grounding.
grounding, connecting. And I said almost nothing from the entire pickup until we sat on the floor. Because I noticed if I started talking, it would aggravate him, which would aggravate me, which would rev things up. So I just started using the walk home as kind of a meditation where I would let him vent and get some, like, blow off some of his steam. And I'd pay attention, just quietly walk, and then we go on the floor. And then it was almost like literally overnight, that dynamic of the elements building more element, gone, dissolved.
Wow.
So that's how powerful it is for relationship. And that's the version of Ayurveda I love to talk about.
Oh my God, that's such a beautiful example of, because yes, a lot of our conflict is relation, right? Especially we talk about where the feed comes from, your significant other or your children or someone in the family dynamic, what it looks like. So for you to discuss how the doshas and how that plays a role. So Pleasance, two questions that are twofold. One is, can you break down for our audience the definition of Ayurveda, just to break it down? And then the other one at the same time is, can you, in our time, just give, we've talked about pitta being like fire. Can you also talk a little bit about the other, just an intro to the other doshas?
Yeah, of course. You will say it with a much more intelligent and integrated accent than I will. I always sound very American, and I'm aware of it. So I always apologize if it is disrespectful. And also what's been interesting is overstudying with so many teachers, the teachers have different dialects and different syllables based on who they studied with. So I'm honoring that. So much reverence for beloved ancestors of all the lineages. I never try to claim this is mine at all. Just need to say that. Is Arya is life and Veda is wisdom. So really, I also say to my, a lot of the Ayurvedic students will say, or clients, they'll say, I don't know what to do next, or I'm not sure if I'm really doing it. I'm like, well, the good news is, it's your whole life. I mean, it's literally everything. It's how you bathe and how you cook and how you love and how you care. So that's the good news. Life wisdom really covers the whole gamut, everything, right? So that's inclusive. It's an inclusive model, which I am down for, especially right now. Okay, so when we're talking about the 5 elements, we're talking about, let's start just looking at time too, to give you the quickest overview, is essentially we have the 5 elements. Ether, let's start from the top, the heavens, ether, which is beyond what is known. I love that definition, beyond what is known, that we're naming there's something beyond that is known. Ether, air, obviously we know air, fire, water, earth. And so what the ancient brilliant teachers, rishis and seers and healers saw was patterns that humans who had certain qualities that were similar, had similar dis-ease. And when we talk about dis-ease in Ayurveda, we're talking about mind, body, soul. They all count. They're all included. So our ether, air, Vata, they put that together and said, oh, this is Vata. We're going to name this, right? Then we've got our fire and our water, which is our Pitta. And then we have our water and our earth, which is our Kapha or Kapha. Again, depending on how you say it. How would you say Kapha? You say Kapha?
I say Kapha.
Yeah.
But see, Kapha can be, like you said, different parts of India where they do have different dialectal, and then you nailed it. It depends on where you have your land.
So they were like, oh my gosh, people who have this extra water and earth, when they're, out of balance, out of harmony, they're feeling heavy and sluggish and slow. And it's really hard to get them to do anything, to get up off, not the couch, because they didn't obviously have couches, but off into the world, right? There was kind of almost a depression, right? That sort of lethargy is out of balance. And let's go to the opposite spectrum. We're talking about vata, the air and the ether. They notice that that type, which tended to have longer limbs and a little bit taller and a little bit lighter complexion or skin or qualities, when they were out of balance, they were worried, fearful, anxious, jumping all around, too much, anxiety. That's how we see it in the world. I mean, it's so unbelievably brilliant. I have full body chills right now. Even again, every time I rename this, and then you think of that pitta, which DC is Mecca, mania pitta, productivity, competition, intellect, fire, working 80 hours a week, hot yoga, make more money, do. One of the best things I love in terms of when people say, well, what am I? We're all of it. We have all the elements.
Yes.
We're all of it. We're not one, but we tend to have our, qualities that we keep is around food. Vatas tend to forget to eat. They're like, la la. Pittas are like, they might work past eating. They remember to eat, but they're too busy working. And the kaphas wake up planning their meals.
Yes.
I'm Pitta Kapha, so I get to work and eat a lot. I love it.
Yes. And and it reminds me of how the seasonal piece to Ayurveda too, right? Like when you do have that shift based on seasonal. And of course, we could get into this whole conversation about, astrology and when the gravitational pull of the moon is. But again, that shift, and it's the same thing. So our mood, food is mood concept. Back to Ayurveda, food is mood. They have that down in that philosophy.
And there's a saying that always comes up when I'm in student mode, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. What is nectar for one is poison for another. What is poison for one is nectar for another. And this, again, is so tied to freedom and sovereignty. This world that we're living in where keto is for everyone or vegan is for everyone. It's just not how we are made. We are wildflowers. We are not all sunflowers. We need a diverse ecosystem. We need diversity of the soil, of the humans, of how we eat, how we live. And we have to be able to hold appreciation for other people and respect how they are choosing their path.
Absolutely. Pleasance, thank you for bringing that up, because I don't know if my audience knows, I'm almost at 2 years for choosing to be a vegan, but I am going to tell you that I actually believe in hunters and gatherers. So what I'm trying to get at is we can't have the same influx of meat eaters that we are having. It's not conducive to Mother Earth. Let's be real. We all know this now, how the food chain, how the ecosystem, how climate control works. But I am saying that was a decision that I realized was working for me, my body type, me, and my process.
And I always say, people say, how do I know if it's working? Eat, sleep, poop.
Yes, totes. Yep.
It's very basic, just like we did for our babies, right? It's eating, sleeping, and pooping. And when our minds are disturbed, it usually disturbs another part of the body. I woke up at 4:00 this morning, sat up and had a download. It was a very clear, you need to get up and go deal with some things that are on your mind. And because of this connection to this wisdom, I know seasons and cycles. I know there's nothing wrong with me. I know I am normally a very early riser. This was an hour earlier than normal, but I trust that there was something that needed to be released and that I will then later today take care of myself. I already had to lay down for a little, just really nurturing myself because there's a lot coming through. And that's just a very different approach than, why did I get up so early? What's wrong with me? I better drink coffee all day.
Absolutely.
I better buy. I'm like, no, there's some wisdom here that's flowing through, just like it does in the windy season or the windy day when that vata is flowing through. It's disturbing. It's not the steadiest day you've ever felt. So I'm really attuning to caring for myself today as things are flowing through, where I want to feel I'm sitting on the ground to talk to you instead of in my office chair. There's a nice bath that I usually use for interviews. I was like, no, I need to sit on the ground and drink water and care for myself, because something is in the ethers is really flowing through me.
Yeah. I just so appreciate you saying you needed to ground yourself. And we talk a lot about where and how we need to ground ourselves, and where you start with the mindset. We're just so focused on mindset on this show and what we bring up. Mm-hmm. Pleasance, we have to come back on. We just have a few minutes left. I could talk to you forever as our audience hears that this is accessible to everyone. I already told everyone, right? Pleasance, you believe in accessibility for everyone. You believe in Ayurveda and yoga. I keep reminding us all, and meditation is accessible to all, and it's yours, and no one can take it away. And that's why I love this stuff, because everything does have a monetary cost sometimes, right? But not here.
Yeah, I'd love to. Can we talk about
back again?
Divine feminine and divine masculine. When I come back, we'll talk about divine feminine and divine masculine in meditation, in yoga, and how to transform practices to feel more in alignment and intuition of where you are, which is a much more flowy than a rigid. Just giving ourselves permission to feel and be in our bodies and pulsate with the rhythms of life is a much more intuitive meditation and yoga practice. So I really want to next time talk about divine feminine, divine masculine, and definitely the death cycle and grief. Ancestry. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yay.
Pleasance, can you please share with everyone how to get a hold of you, and B, any resources, or where can everyone find you?
Lola Community is our website. Pleasance at Little Ohm, LILOMM is my email, but it's also, you can contact me from this website. And I just released Little, which is Ayurvedic wisdom teachings for daily life. They're in forms of letters to my children, so they're very digestible, all English, deep reverence for my teachers who are doing prescriptions and remedies from the tradition. And we also want to bring it forward into daily modern life. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh my God, I love it so much. So you all have heard that you can go on Pleasance's website, where everything is accessible to you, and to be a part of her community and join her mailing list if you so choose. Pleasance, see you soon.
Thanks, Artie. Take care.
Thank you. Peace to you all. Y'all, thanks for tuning in if you're live or if you're going to watch this episode later. If you take away today the fact that accessibility and love for the moment is all part of living and lighting up our life. I have learned in this week of being in what I consider my home and being grounded with my loved ones, and also this afternoon when I go to the Memorial Garden where my mom and dad rest, that we all need some place and someone to feel connected to, but really go inside of yourself and start asking yourself, and you will find all the answers that you need, and they'll start to unravel and the chapters will come. You know how to get a hold of me. It's the holisticlifecare@gmail.com, or our website, www.theholisticlifecare.org. And we will have Pleasance back again because Ayurveda is such an important element. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Light Up Your Life. Next week's episode is going to have another international speaker with me, which I'm so excited about. And we will be talking more about our brain and our brain health. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, or when you tune in, have a great present moment and enjoy your time.